There we go. Welcome, everyone. I'm Rita Bacuzzi, also known as Mama Rita Money. And I'm here with you today on It's Time to Feel Good About Money, because I really believe that in our lives, money is an everyday resource. I was just having the conversation with somebody today, and we were talking about how literally every aspect of our lives, money comes to touch it in one way or another. So really, when we aren't discussing it, it creates distress or angst. And I see that with a lot of people in the day-to-day. And when it comes to that stress, then of course it affects our health. And really, one of my goals is to create a change by creating common conversations so that this way, when we're talking about money, we don't feel that angst. We just feel like it's a normal part of our everyday life. And, I'm going to say, just as I think it's getting more popular to talk about sex, politics, and religion, talking about money should be the same thing. Actually, it should be fun and lighthearted. Yet, I think with COVID, it's created more distress, right? So then we get into the cycle of our health kind of spiraling downward because we aren't feeling comfortable about our situation, right? So we're worried about our health. We're worried about our finances. The more we worry about our finances, the more our health declines. I want to change all that for us in the sense of I want to make sure that when we come together, it's just a conversation. We don't put any stress or duress or importance on it more than the importance of ourselves and our health. And so I want to share an example because for me, and I've shared before, it's this example of when we let the stressors lead us in life, they lead us down a path of ill health, can lead us down a path of ill health. And so for many people working in corporate America who are feeling stressed, who are feeling miserable, those that should feel thankful for their jobs, but they're not because they're being impacted in ways where they feel like they can't breathe and that, the corporate structure is stifling them and their creative natures, but they feel like they got to go to work because they got bills, they got family. I was there, right? you end up being promoted and promoted maybe in a job, and you're like, I should be enjoying it. I'm in my corporate office looking out at the beautiful view, but I'm not home with family, right? Or I'm not doing this or that. I'm not growing or living in my passion. I'm actually making somebody else rich on my ideas and thoughts. I know those are some of the things that I thought of, when I was working. And, I was doing it for my family, but in reality, if you don't pay attention to usually what the signs that are like they're hitting at you in the face, your health will end up stopping, right? So then you're really going to have to pay attention to it. So in this time of COVID and all the changes, I think the biggest thing that's happened is a great awareness. So I've been hearing a lot of people going, I can't wait for 2021. Well, I can't wait for the next moment to shift or change. I definitely don't want to wait another, let's see, oh my gosh, it's only 30 days left. But 30 days to create the change. Look how fast time goes. So for me, when we talk about our health, which is our wealth, do I want to waste another moment? Do I want to wait 30 days? I don't even want to wait 30 seconds to change it. I don't know about you, but that's me. Because I think it is a top priority. So of course, with good health comes abundant wealth. And it doesn't just mean dollars. However, it does mean dollars too. So I don't want us to discount that. So today, I can't think of a better person than to be here with me is Carla Cohen. She is so super amazing. She just had a #1 bestseller. Like, how beautiful. I get to be with her. Her book launched today, and it's Women in the Modern Business World, a blueprint of how to lead a business life. And it just became #1. So we're going to talk about that with her. And she's going to talk about her emotion code, because a lot of times people are like, okay, how does health and wealth come together? Well, the cool thing is Carla and I get to explore. We are exploring together, and we're seeing so many commonalities, and it just bridges that discussion of how does it exactly all work. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Carla in. I'm going to share a little bit more about her. And so let me have Carla come on in and join us. And I really appreciate you being here today. And first of all, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It's such it's kind of mind-blowing. So thank you for having me on. And I'm excited about the book. That's huge that, we went to bestseller basically within a few hours. So on Amazon. So that's really exciting, because now I'm a best-selling author. So,
on top of, okay, let's see. I didn't even go into like the accolades of being a master healer, who's been in healing arts for 30 years. So, that history is super amazing, and that, you're certified in over 20 plus modalities, and unlocking emotional intelligence and brain profiling. So for me, all of this is so super cool, because I know that as you're unlocking these things, this emotional intelligence and brain profiling and how we see ourselves, that actually affects our financial numbers. So share with the audience a little bit more about your amazing background, because I want them to get to know you, and what are, the parts that you want people to know more about you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Since you talked about like how much health and wealth are related, I think it would be a great place to start with that, especially as a female in the corporate world, it's no secret to most of us that there is a different, how do I say, the standard for men and women. My last job where I was actually employed by somebody was in the film business. I was what they call a development executive, and I worked very, very hard being a woman. And it was, first of all, not primarily a woman's job, at that time. Also, so I had to work extra hard to get the job. Then once I got the job, I felt like I had to work 10 times harder than a man to keep it. And at that time, I was also, even though I was doing the same work that I was promoted into my boss's position, he was let go. He was an amazing guy. So it wasn't about him. We had crazy people we worked for. So I just want to say that. But I was promoted to his position with all the responsibility. And I wasn't even initially even given a raise. For a long period of that, I worked for about a third of what he was getting paid, which is, and so you can imagine thinking, okay, in my mind, I didn't think, oh, it's a reflection of male dominance in the industry or anything like that. I thought it was a reflection of me not doing enough, not working hard enough, not being good enough. There's those thoughts that go off in our mind, right? That create emotional garbage really for us. It's not, our emotions are important and we need to feel them, but when they start to control us, instead of us being able, we should be able to ideally want to be in a place where we can step out, notice the emotion, let ourselves have the experience of feeling it, but not be trapped by it, right? So, so I was putting in a 70-hour work week. I took home scripts every weekend. My job was about developing stories. So that meant I had a lot of reading to do, a lot of writing to do. I sometimes negotiated contracts for, options on stories. And so we would go, my husband and I would go to visit our friends, and I would bring a stack of scripts and he'd go have fun, so I'd be off in the corner reading because I'm like, I've got to get this done. And so I used to have this couch in my office so I could comfortably do my job, and I would take little cat naps, right? And no big deal, that was all right. But what started happening was my cat naps turned into bigger and bigger naps. I mean, I would go out for an hour or something, at my job. And I just wasn't feeling right. Like I didn't have energy. I started to notice like my brain felt a little funny, but I wasn't self-aware enough at that point to go, oh, I should do something. I didn't realize that those were the whispers, before the train wreck, right? So we all have whispers, but we have to choose to listen. I can say that now in hindsight. So by the time I got to a point where they were either going to fire me or I was quit, it was kind of like simultaneous. So I finally went to the doctor and they said, we've tested you a number of times. You have a crazy elevated white blood cell count. We don't actually know what's causing it. And you have a constant fever and we don't know what's causing that. And so on top of that, I was so tired, like I would just, and it really, I went home, they did all these tests on me, they threw out a bunch of theories. I now know with what I know that a portion of what was going on, there were two things that caused it, but I'll get to that maybe later on. But the thing was that I got to the point of feeling desperate. You know what I mean? Like this is never going to end. That's kind of where I mentally, and the doctors were saying, look, we don't know what to do for you, So they finally decided after testing everything, they said, well, maybe you picked up something in one of those weird foreign countries you traveled to. We just can't, it's not showing up on our radar. So I started reading and trying to learn whatever I could, when I could stay conscious, So I ended up laying on a chaise lounge or on my bed most of the day. My parents would come over, and my husband was working. At that time, actually, I was the main wage earner. So I had been for the first 12 years of our marriage, and I had no problem with that. I was fine with that. But what happened because of my health, my husband finally had to just, step up, and he did. God bless him. He was amazing. He went for it, and that was awesome. But so I was so weak that I couldn't walk from we had a little 800 square foot house. I couldn't walk from my bedroom to the bathroom without getting somebody to help me. That's how bad it was. And so I went from this powerhouse to, I felt like I had it, I was dialed in finally to at least a direction that seemed reasonable for me, that I liked what I was doing, to just being like, nothing left.
Wow.
So the final straw was they said, well, we think you're depressed. And I went,
No. I've heard that before. Yes.
Yeah, right. It's, that's like, and again, sorry, I don't want to sound like, I'm bashing men because I love men, but it was a male doctor saying, like, here, little girl, go home, and sleep it off, so he handed me, and he had a great heart. He was really trying to help me, but he just had reached that point where he didn't know, I think he thought maybe a portion of it was psychological. Well, even if it was, an elevated white blood cell count and a fever would indicate that there was something else maybe going on, that they might want to try to find. But so he gave me some antidepressants and he said, take these and take these when you get home and, it'll probably help you. And I thought, I was so desperate. I thought, okay, well, I'll try it. I'll take this drug. So I took the antidepressant. And when it hit, I actually was in the bathroom and I was I used to straighten my hair in those days. And I remember trying to hold my hands up over my head to straighten my hair. And I collapsed on the toilet. It made me even weaker. Like I was already bad. So this just pushed me into the ground and I started crying. And it was sort of, I call it my come to Jesus moment, because I suddenly realized it finally really hit that my parents were not going to be able to fix this. The doctors couldn't fix this. I had to make a decision, right? I had to try to fix myself or resign to being in bed the rest of my life. That didn't sound like a very good alternative. So
it's a choice. It's a choice in resiliency, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It really, it is a decision. I'm going to say that's the one thing that, you and I, as we get to know one another, are these parallels. And as we talk about these things, we hear more stories, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not just us. You're hearing more people like, I tell people you talked about those whispers. I'm going to say the whispers turned into 2x4s, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And I actually used to ask for that because I'm like, I need to see or I need to hear her. And I wasn't like, it was right there, but I wasn't, and people were telling me and I was choosing, it was the, but I'm the main breadwinner, but I got to do this, but I should do this. So we got to stop the shouldn't all over ourselves and no more buts, kick the butts out. It's kind of like my thought is like, if you're saying but, no, because if we can create and take a step back, like I think like I said, with COVID, I know it's frustrating for a lot of people. And I know there's a lot of sad things happening. And, I'm meeting people who have had, they almost died. I've met people who have lost family members. Close friends of mine have lost their family members. But what this is all doing is taking a step back, right? If those aren't 2x4s to say, hold on, slow down, and let's see what's really important in our lives. So the one thing I'm going to say in finance, we teach that there is a number one asset. And a lot of times when I ask in front of a room, what is your number one asset in life? And I think because I'm in this world, I always think that everybody knows the answer because it's really obvious. And it may be obvious to a lot of people, but it is not obvious to everybody. No. And actually the people that it needs to be most obvious to are usually the people that are, I got to work, I got to be the breadwinner, because that number one asset, as you and I well know, is you and I, right? It's you, you the person. Because if your health, if you're not paying attention and you don't listen to those whispers that then become 2x4s before you have to listen to them, and you don't slow down and take time to do an asset check, right? Then you could lose the asset altogether. You could lose your life. So, you had your health issue that you had to figure out. I'm going to say mine was more obvious because cancer is very prevalent right now, like 1 in 2. Wow. So if that reality doesn't freak you out already, that's not a whisper, that's a 2x4.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. It's not a whisper, that's a 2x4. It's not always somebody else. So if you're doing the run, and you've got to do this and you got to do that, then maybe the gotta is, I need to pause. I need to take a step back. I need to slow down. So I think either you slow down or it will slow you down or bring you to a complete halt, right?
Well, yeah, and it's the thing is, and we could dive into this more, but
Yeah.
Part of what you're saying is, this is so preventable. 99% of what people are experiencing, so I've gone the complete opposite route, but we'll come back around to that in a minute. But just what I like to do as a healer, since is I like to work with people in prevention before they get to the point of, I'm a train wreck and now how can you help me?
Right.
I have had people come to me in stage 4 cancer, that I've worked with, but I have other people who come for one thing. Maybe they came for, hey, I've got this really bad back pain that I can't get rid of, and after we release that, and they start to see the possibilities of what else can happen because they are gotten so used to feeling not right that they've learned to accept it and it's very subtle, right? Because it's a little bit, it chips away, right? A little bit. And then just one day it seems like, oh, I woke up and I don't feel good. But the truth is there was a bunch of little steps that got you there, and you maybe didn't feel the subtle changes that were happening along the way, right? So,
and I wanted to share one thing that I was thinking about that, I'm going to say I had the beautiful opportunity to hear Carla speak, and this is why I wanted to bring her to this world. One thing that I remember you talking about was the effects of thoughts on our DNA.
Oh, yeah. It's everything we think actually changes our DNA, and we have a crazy amount we have 60,000 thoughts per minute, and about 90% of those are negative thoughts that we're recycling, which is really, really scary. And so that impact over time is crazy on the body, on the brain, on the tissue. For me, like when I started to have and there we could be doing, just simple things. Okay, so for me, let's talk about what shifted what was my thing that started to shift me. So the first thing was, on one of my days when I felt better, somebody told me about a transcendental meditation. They were giving a free, free exposure to it, come try it, whatever. And I invited myself to go along with this person. And because I really wasn't even in a place to drive at that point. I was still incredibly weak. It was crazy. And I had been doing a bunch of reading on nutrition. I'd made some shifts in my, we never had a really bad diet. I was not a fast food person or heavy on sugar, but there was some fine tuning, and I'm still fine tuning, right? Years later, right? Oh, maybe that should go. Maybe that should go. But meditation started to slow me. You talked about that, slow yourself down. That's one of the benefits of COVID, people. I mean, this is an opportunity to sit down and take some time to get real with yourself and have a conversation with you and say, is this how I want to live the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, at this crazy pace, doing this job that I'm miserable at, because I believe that's the only thing I can do. Well, I'm here to say that as I have more birthdays on this planet, I'm astounded by how many choices we have for jobs we could have, like that I didn't even think of. Oh, wow, that's a choice. Like I'm really into Below Decks. Have you seen that show?
No, I haven't seen that yet.
It's half soap opera, half whatever, but it's following this crew on a cruise ship, and it's a small yacht, right? So they have these clients that come in, high-end clients, pay a boatload of money for the boat, right, to stay on the boat for 2 or 3 days. And there's all this drama below decks with the crew. At first, when it started, I thought, wow, what a cool job. I think maybe I want to be a crew person. I want to go try that. But then, you don't think about all the weirdos that you're going to get, right? Anyway, we have lots of choices we never considered as real jobs. I could have, my parents discouraged me, but I had when I was younger, I actually had an agent offer me a singing contract when I was living in Peru many years ago. And my mother was so anti, entertainment because my family had been my aunt was worked with Red Skelton, and there was some bad juju around the entertainment industry. And so that was strongly discouraged, So anyway, so you have more choices than you realize. And self-employment is a wonderful choice even though it may not, for some people, it may not seem like a choice, but you have skills that you probably are not monetizing, that you're not even thinking are skills, right? Whether it's baking a cake, teaching people how to cook, or, even taking a good picture, or I don't know. Rita, probably you could come up with some ideas, but
I mean, there's that, and that's what's really cool is it's completely boundless. Like when I look in the world of entrepreneurship, and I'm going to say I'm in the world where I go networking, there's an unending ocean of different categories and different jobs. I mean, from social media where somebody's a specialist in LinkedIn to Pinterest to Instagram to whatever it is. One of the things is maybe you don't even have to be the expert, but you believe in certain things and you become an affiliate and you start promoting kind of like, how many girls, like when we could get together, or now on Facebook or in a group online, the location has changed, but the dynamic of how we naturally are to share, especially when something is good. Now imagine that every time you shared stuff that you loved and you do it because it's the right thing, like because you truly love it, not because you're selling for the sake of selling. There's so many things that you can get affiliate fees. So I have like my admin who, she does golden hour glitter. So she is selling glitter makeup.
Wow.
Right? She's cool. She's 22 years old. She worked for me for several years. She learned about business and entrepreneurship over those years. And she's like, I love makeup design and I love people to sparkle. And her specialty is golden hour glitter. So you get to choose. She's a creative. Now I could never do that. Sometimes I do wear the makeup on the show because it's fun and it feels good. And so it creates a different dynamic. But you can be an affiliate, right? I'm going to say Amazon has affiliate programs and things like that. So the cool thing, I'm going to say the challenging thing is the possibilities are endless. The cool thing is the possibilities are endless. And it's really up to you. So that's why you got to really hone in on centering where do you feel good. So I'm going to say, the difference between me working at corporate, where I was always having ideas and people were like, oh my God, you always come up with all these crazy ideas, and being stifled into, a herd mentality. That's what I felt like, right? And you're being dominated by someone else and being told what to do. It stops everything, right? So I'm going to say I felt like I didn't have a voice. And it's interesting that where I got my cancer was in my tonsils.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I know that you can probably speak to that, is like how that manifested right there, right? Grew up, be seen, children are to be seen and not heard. Get into corporate, you always have to, I would be at meetings, I would share ideas. They would say, nope, nope, nope. And then all of a sudden, I don't know, 6 months down the line, somebody else got promoted on an idea that I had brought forth.
Right.
Happened to be, I love men too. I've been married 30 years to one, and I have two boys. So, but at that time, and even in finance, we're still over 90% male dominated. So it's now for me, it's how do I show up, right? And so like when you were talking about, or I mentioned about the DNA, right? The words that we're sharing and speaking. Yeah. So words can give life and joy. I know that a lot of times when I'm in meetings and I just say something about smiling, like you say the word smile, it's almost like you almost can't not smile.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it does, that actually impacts your DNA. That changes your whole physiology, just the act of lifting those muscles up, right? Doing that. But yeah, so going back to the train of thought that you were on, we're kind of jumping around a bit, but it definitely manifests. There's like, I've lost track of how many thousands of people I've helped with my healing work, right? Probably over 5,000 bodies, definitely over 5,000, I don't know. And around the world, right? And there are certain tendencies that I will see that certain things manifest in certain parts of the body. Now, I know people go, and this is, I love Louise Hay, but Louise Hay is very It's very basic. And the thing is it's not that cut and dry, so what is, some people will go, oh, well, I read in that the teeth mean this, this is what she says it means. And I'm like, well, you know what? It might mean that, but I actually have the ability to read tissue with my hands. So I have a very different experience, and I don't always agree with some of the things that, although I think what she did, the ideas that the concept of what she pioneered for people was awesome, because it opened people up to the idea that, hey, my emotions and my thoughts might actually be affecting what's going on in my health, right? So, but it becomes like, that was the benefit of meditation, was for me, when I started that, is over time, it became more and more clear. Some people think, oh, you meditate so that you can get into the silence. That's nice. Sometimes that happens. It doesn't always happen. My teacher was wise enough to say, just don't let anything be more important than anything else, any experience. So what I developed as a result of meditation was the ability to watch my thoughts, become more of the witness to what was going on in my world, instead of feeling like I had to live life a certain way. It took me into choice. It took me into detachment. And I don't mean detached as in I don't feel anything, but into the ability to discern between, okay, here's an emotion. I have a choice now. Am I going to react, or I have a thought? Am I going to react in a certain way, or am I going to not? I have a choice, right? That's what emotional intelligence is, really, is becoming aware of what your feelings are, being able to understand there's many, many subtleties. People think, oh, there's anger, fear, sadness, whatever. No, there's a lot more, it's a rainbow, right? So there's a lot more feelings in there, but knowing that, and then making the emotional intelligence comes down to being able to choose when to draw from something and when not to. I'm going to, is that emotion might be information for me, but instead of react, what most people do is react, like boom, boom, boom. Somebody says something to you that's offensive, and maybe it didn't feel good in the moment. My suggestion is take 10 seconds, and maybe don't even talk to them about it right now. If it really got under your skin, wait until you're a little bit cooler and just say, when you said this to me, I felt this. Do you mind telling me a little bit more about what you mean? And a lot of times people will be like, oh, I'm so sorry. That's not what I intended, so you have an opportunity to do a reality check, because we project onto the world a lot about what the experience is. And a lot of times unless we're really self-aware, that projection can seem very real to us about what's happening, our perception.
Yeah. There's several things as you're talking. For me, all sorts of ideas and experiences that I have had pop into my head. I mean, the first one is, as you're talking, so in learning, as being partnered with Five Rings Financial, there's a CEO, his name is Mike Wilk, amazing, amazing leader. So one of the things that I love to do is watch leaders that are already doing amazing, not just financially, but what are they teaching, right? What's that alignment? So for him, it was, the thing that he drills into us is attitude and activity, right? It's your choice. And so the more you work on yourself, the better you are, the better you show up in the world, the more reward that you gain. And it's not because of that you do it. It just organically, naturally happens. Right? It's kind of almost like this connectivity. And then you find more people. It creates, I'm going to say, ultimately the state of flow. You start meeting more dynamic people. I know that I'm going to it took me a period of time. And sometimes you might be in a home, and I do get this with women a lot, is, look, I want to do this, but my family members don't want to partake, or my spouse does not want to partake. That's okay. The message might be that you get to be the leader. And sometimes we maybe don't feel like worthy or that we're ready. But the reality is you just have to be you and take the steps at that time, right? I'm going to say, be kind to yourself. I know that this is what I went through, right? My own spouse is like, okay, you're doing it. It's your thing. I mean, he loves me, but it wasn't like, oh, hey, let me help you. No, there was none of that. I love him 30 years. Just keep repeating it. But the reality is it wasn't that way. And was it frustrating for me? I'm going to just say, hell yeah. It was not easy. So then the question became versus the reaction. I could get pissed off and throw it all into the wind just because he wouldn't help me or support me in it. Or I could say, what does this mean to me?
Mm-hmm.
What are the choices? I mean, actually, another thought, and I know it's random, my brain kind of jumps, but it's like these experiences that get triggered by these words, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I remember when my older son was in elementary school, and he actually started bullying other children,
Oh,
which was shocking because he was never that way, like pre-K, never that kid. All of a sudden, so he started acting out. We didn't know what was going on. Well, what we ultimately find out is he was being bullied and he was transferring that, right? He actually had an experience where what happened, the reason why that child thought it was okay to bully my son was because the teacher was actually bullying my son.
okay. There you go.
So
Yeah, they learn it from somewhere, right?
So I
Yeah.
learned from there. I mean, and this is a story that I have never shared publicly because honestly, it's almost 26 years. And as a mom, being in that position, first time mom, not knowing, I was placing a lot of blame and shame. I could not figure out what was going on. I was trying to figure out with the resources that I had. So one of the things that happened is when my son started, so, you take care of you,
Mm-hmm.
right? I would talk to my son and I would say, why are you doing like what you're doing? What's happening? And so he had anger in him. And I said, well, where is that coming from? Well, so-and-so hits me or so-and-so does this. And I said, well, let's think about why do you think he's doing that? So that's why I not only had the model of the teacher, but we found out that he had the same model at home with his own father.
Okay.
So again, the experiences, now we're looking at children. This is what we do as adults. We're just bigger kids, creating sometimes bigger problems, and then transferring it on to others because we're reacting versus taking that pause. Kids don't know better, but as adults, and sometimes as adults, we don't know better. That's why we have these discussions.
Right.
So we can improve one another's lives. So you said it so that we can start to learn how to stand up for ourselves so that we can speak up. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause for a moment because I have a sponsor that talks about, she has an Audible and gives us a lot of words and examples. Her name's Dr. Lois Frankel. And she talks about standing up, speaking out, and getting your voice heard. So it's called Nice Girls Don't Stand Up, Speak Out. But the reality is that we can, and that we do. And it's a lot of the ways that you're talking about right now. So I'm going to go to a quick commercial break, and we're going to hear a little bit about Lois's Audible.
Okay.
And we'll come right back. So thank you for I want to say thank you because you know what? The greatest thing is that we all have these resources. And I really want to put your book up there as well, is Women in the Modern Business World. This is what's super amazing is
it's a blueprint to how to lead a better life.
How to lead. Well, then let me quickly correct that. And
okay.
But I want you to share a little bit about what motivated you to the why behind and the heart of why you wrote this book.
Well, okay. First of all, thank you. So yeah, the very exciting. It just reached #1 today, within, I don't know, a couple of hours actually after it was released. So I am one chapter in this book, and what motivated me was to be able to share about. Oh, there's a weird. I don't know if that's my sound here.
We can't hear it.
You can't hear it. I'm the only one who hears it. Okay. Okay. Anyway, so the idea that our stories, our tragedies and our triumphs can help another woman lift up and not go through some of the same lessons that we had that were so hard. Yeah. And when I heard it, it was a group thing. It's 13 women from around the world who are all women. Most of them are, well, they're all successful female entrepreneurs, and they're all in very, very different fields. I mean, and so not all of them have tragedies, but there are tragedies in there as well, and how people rose above those to create a better life for themselves, right? And so my story in there was, it's funny, I don't want to give away the whole thing, but I was trying to figure out, like, what can I write? Because I didn't want to tell my story again about being sick and all that, but that's all interesting. But I thought, what can I talk about that people haven't heard? So I decided to share about my 1993 trek where I climbed Mount Kailash. It was a 17-hour climb up a mountain. And what that climb taught me about myself and about life. And the lessons that I learned might seem really, I don't know, they're obvious, but they're not obvious. You have such a visceral experience when you're up on a mountain and you can't go back. So, I remember at one point, we hiked for hours and we got to this. We weren't supposed to eat or drink or anything, and we stopped at this plateau, and I see this mountain in the distance, and I think, oh, well, that's not so bad. I even said it out loud. Well, that's not so bad. Is that where we're going? And the Sherpa goes, no, not that mountain, Missy. That one. It's like 10 times the size. So, it was climbing up shale for 17 hours. You can imagine what that's like. So you climb 7 or 8 feet, and then you slide back about 3 feet. And so I don't want to give away the whole story. I definitely want to encourage people to read the book. You can get it on Kindle if you don't want to order the paperback. It's and learn about it. And there's a lot of wisdom in there. I mean, I was able to hear some of the women for the first time and meet some of them for the first time actually this morning, and was fascinated by what they all shared. So I definitely want to encourage people to go out there and read it. So yeah. So getting back to how do you move past, these adversities? We talked about some different ways that people can earn money. Like you mentioned, the affiliates. I'm a network marketer. That's actually one of my streams of income. And I know people have some, funky ideas about that, but it really, one of the biggest objections I hear isn't that making money off of your friends? And I'm like, well, if you work in a regular job, your boss is making money off of you. You'll never earn as much or more than your boss, and the company's making money off of you. And in a good MLM structure, you can make more than the person who signed you up. It's just about how hard you work and how you structure your organization. So I just want to take a moment to say that. But I got, like you said, believing in a product. One of the things that helped me with my recovery, in addition to the meditation, that ended up becoming a regular practice. I've never skipped a day of meditation since I learned it all those years ago. It was a huge part of my recovery. But it was also the beginning of me waking up to my purpose, because when the meditators needed a place to meditate, we offered our home. And when the woman, there was this older meditator who crossed the threshold, and she said, oh, she looked me in the eye, this is the home of a very powerful healer. And I'm like, I was still corporate, right? So I was like, okay, come sit over here. So that's, and then, what really did it was about a week later, a similar message. I went to a psychic fair. I decided to have a tarot reader do a reading on me. I didn't tell her anything. And she turned over the card and she said, oh my God, you've been sick for a really long time. And it's very serious. you've tried a lot of things. And she said, what you really need is energy balancing. I'm like, how did she know that? So I didn't know what energy balancing was. I asked her, she said, I can't explain it, but it's $50. Now, remember, I hadn't been working for 2 years at that point. So $50 seemed like a lot of money. That night, somebody gave me a check for $50. And I was like, duh, I get it. So I called her, made an appointment. And my first experience was I walked in, I got on her table. She started putting her hands on me and she said, get off my table, kind of very abruptly. And I thought, oh, I did something wrong. I didn't know what to do with that. And she said, no, your problem is that you're a very powerful healer. You're also very psychic and you don't understand how to control your energy. And that's part of why you're sick. You've been sick. And so I became her apprentice, and that's how I started. And so after that, I learned from healers all around the world, and then I got now more than 20 certifications, and then dove into an emotional intelligence. So getting back to how do you get past this stuff with even COVID, right? There's so much, we have to be careful about, the gate to our mind and what we're letting in.
Yes.
And I think we all would, most people would agree with that. And unfortunately, we're still letting in a lot of negative programming. It's on the radio, it's on the television. I'm not saying you shouldn't listen to this stuff. I'm saying you shouldn't let it run every second of, this much, tune in, tune out. And so, but those trapped emotions and thoughts, that fear and anxiety that you already had in you can get, it feeds into it. And then you're recycling it and it grows. It's where you put your energy, right? It expands, right? Wherever you put your mind, you put your mind on money, you get more money, or you put your mind on debt, you get more debt, right?
Yep.
So same thing here with what's great about the work that I've moved into, in addition to the other hands-on healing work, is I can do these emotional release sessions where we actually are able to identify and release trapped emotions that are causing that fear and anxiety at its root, right? How do we get out the root, not just the superficial stuff? So important for people to understand that even though you think you can't get out of those thoughts, you may think it's hopeless and I have to feel this way the rest of my life. Everything can be changed, every single thing, right? And Rita's a great example of that, by the way, because look at how she completely shifted her life from, to corporate she's a very successful self-employed person. And she's a teacher. She teaches so many people about, life through the vehicle of money. But
because it's a part of our everyday life, and I love what you're talking about, because I know when I heard you speak, you talked a little bit about the law of self-directed neuroplasticity.
Yes.
Then yes, changing our neural pathways is what I'm going to say, through neuroscience and quantum physics, and how our brain changes daily. And this is why we get to when you're talking these deeper types of thinking, it changes that structure and function of our brain, which is what you've been talking about. And we get to change, starting, like I started at the beginning. I was like, no more waiting for 2021.
Right, exactly.
In this next moment, what am I going to do in this next moment? That kind of thought process changes you. So I mean, to break your stride, but I'm just so super excited about what you are sharing, because again, if you're sick and in bed, what are you bringing to the table? Mm-hmm. How are you growing your asset, which is you?
Well, and what are you going to, that's it. It is like that was a huge blow, obviously, to our income. And it made me look at finances, differently. Not just that. I mean, I know we're near the end of the hour, and it went so fast, but, you and I spoke about this briefly on my show, how 2008 changed so many people, like I remember we had a financial advisor in our 20s. And I remember in my early 30s, the guy saying, well, you guys are set. You're good you're great, And then there was 2008, that happened. And, I lost, just in one part of our life, we lost $80,000 overnight, And so, it's good to have more than one, we talk about plan B in network marketing. I think they talk about it in any good money conversation is about that. Really, you need to have a plan B, and whether that's, I don't know all of Rita's program, but I know that she has a plan B that she's set up. For me, my plan B, and actually I love the network marketing has really been, that's something I can count on, for forever. But it's important to think alternatively, because, here's COVID now, like Rita mentioned earlier. Now, a lot of people have been wiped out, like if you were just doing waitressing, you were just doing cab driving, and I'm not saying those things are just, not an important job. I'm saying, is that your only stream of income?
Smaller source.
Yeah. So this is a good time you've been given a gift to explore what you might be able to do. And if you can look at it that way, it's helpful.
And it's probably looking at the gifts that you have within. What do you love doing?
Mm-hmm.
What if you have something that's a hobby, can you turn it into a business? Can you share the gift if you're having joy in it, I bet you somebody else out there might have joy in it. So how can you teach it? How can you share it? How can you develop it? Or how can you connect with somebody who already has a model, right? This is why I affiliated or I partnered with Five Rings, is they had a model that was like completely in alignment with mine. So it helped me flourish and expand. And that's all we have to do is kind of look to that. And sometimes we need guidance. So I want to, I know we only have a little short time left, but you have a few things. One, I wanted to, you have this offering today, right? So I'm going to put that up there and hopefully I got that right. The emotion code plus bonus brain profile, and people get to save $100 with the coupon code READY. And there's the link, eqmindshift.com. So tell us a little bit about that so that this way our viewers can engage with you and start to, create that shift.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, so I don't normally offer this because it's very expensive typically to just get a brain profile. So and it can be very involved, but as something for the viewers today, I thought it'd be fun to put this out as an offering. So with a brain profile, the one I'm going to be offering, I have different avenues I can do, but it's called a brain talent profile, where we look and see what are the things that are your strengths and what that you're not using, or you're leaning on these and you have these other ones, or maybe, it's limiting you because if you leaned on some of these other strengths that you have, you could achieve some of these goals that you're trying to set out to do. So it's really an exercise in awareness, really. And a lot of times people go, oh, yeah, I knew that. But to have it told to them in the way that I look at it, it's very cool. So it opens up a lot of their minds in different ways. And then you can use that as you move forward in life, and you can develop more talents too. So, and we kind of talk about that. Yeah. And then, so that's number one. And I'm certified in that. I can actually go into a corporation and do what's called a dashboard, where we do the emotional intelligence for the entire corporation, which is pretty interesting, pretty complicated. But you get it, you do a printout on everybody, and then you see how are the parts working together or not working together, right? Why do you have that person at the front desk? They should be over here, So that's one. And then the emotion code sessions are really identifying and releasing emotional baggage, trapped emotional thoughts that can be causing physical pain or keeping us from achieving our goals or causing emotional distress as well. So those things, and they're done over Zoom, by the way. So during this time, it makes it safe for everybody, so you don't have to worry about it. And when, I do other things when I work with people who really are choosing to get well, they're, depending on you and your interest, we actually go through everything, toxins in your house, what are you using in your diet that maybe you don't even realize might not be so great for you right now. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be your policeman, but I'm just here to say, look, these are the things that helped me. And because I had to learn them, I had to learn about nutrition. I got trained in sports medicine. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff in here. And so if you want to get better, I'll help you,
Yep. And you can reach out to Carla at Carla Women.
Women's Health Revolution.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm hearing an echo, so that's why.
You hear it too, yeah.
Yeah, now I'm hearing it. But we're almost done, so this is pretty good. So Carla at womenshealthrevolution.com. And, reach out, go to her website. Really, it is about creating awareness. Someone out there needs to hear this. You want to be able to lead a better life. You want it to be a healthy life, right? And since money is part of our everyday life, we don't want where that's leading you. And really to be able to come together. So I know, like I'm going to say in 3 minutes, can you tell me what
No
would
pressure.
you tell your 22-year-old self?
Oh, wow. Okay, so the person that was 22, I would have said, you know what, you should just keep following your bliss and don't do what you think other people are asking you to do. That's the biggest thing, because at that age, I was not, I knew I was loving what I was doing. I wasn't so clear on what my next steps were. We moved back to LA, and it's been, I don't have any real regrets, but I think I might've made some different choices. Maybe, traveled even more. I'm very much a gypsy at heart. So I love being on the road, and I think that's why we also vibed together the way we do.
Yeah.
And also I want to say, shameless plug, but I do have a television show as well, Women's Health Revolution, which you can also catch on this channel. So
yeah. When is it? It's 8 a.m. on Monday mornings, right?
Yeah, every other Monday. So
every
we just
other Monday.
Yeah, and you can see it on womenshealthrevolutiontv.com as well. So, but it's great. Thank you so much, Rita. It's an honor and a privilege, and I always love just hanging out with you. So thank you for having me on the show.
Likewise. I mean, I'm going to say I'm honored, and this is the other piece, is hanging out with other people, hearing the languaging, hearing the experiences, so that we can learn and grow from one another. And I know I keep saying it, but it's that transforming right where we are. And we're not here to do it alone. It's creating a village, whether it's a village where we're talking about it's time to feel good about money, or I love that you're having a revolution. I really believe this is an era where there's going to be revolutionary experiences and changes, and they are all happening right now. Now is just gaining the awareness. And I'm going to ask you all to just think about, wow, what part do I get to play in this? What part do I want to play in this, so that I can be bigger, stronger, more brilliant ever, get to step into our greatnesses and share and stand up and speak out, and do it together, because I think that more and more women are aligning just like we have. And I just feel truly blessed, Carla. You're an amazing woman. Definitely check out her emotion code bonus. Go to Carla's website or reach out to me, MamaRitaMoney.com. And I think with that, we will close out. I wish you all abundant blessings, and have a fabulous, fabulous evening.